Fantasy Football Show.
Hello everybody, welcome to the People's Poll. I had to just check myself to make sure I was announcing the right show. The show from Planet FPL each and every Monday where we discuss a topic of your choosing. My name's Suj.
My name is James.
End of another weekend of football. Pretty drab. Honestly, let's be honest, it was a drab weekend of football. You put out a few options on our regular Sunday night poll. One of them was drab. And it happened to win. What a weekend! How was your weekend? Let's just get the pleasantries out of the way. Good weekend.
It was alright. Bar Saturday lunchtime,
Yeah.
and my FPL weekend was a bit shocking. But yeah, the weekend itself was alright. Thank you. You?
Yeah, not too bad at all. West Ham game was as dull as I think that your game was. So nothing exciting from that kind of point of view. My dad's birthday. Old man turns 70, so we went out for lunch yesterday.
Congratulations.
Pretty nice. So all in all, pretty good. So, what were the options on the poll?
The options on the poll, I guess, were a little bit uninspiring, which is why we ended up with the winner we wanted. But I thought there was something in them personally. So essentially, I put out three options. One was the changing date of the African nations in 2021, which has been moved from the summer back to winter, January, which obviously causes potentially this time next year quite a headache for a number of clubs who have African players, none more so than obviously Liverpool. Imagine this double game week come around this time next year and you've got Mane, Salah, Naby Keita, all out in Africa.
Yeah.
There's others players, obviously, Riyad Mahrez, etc. Is it right that it's been moved? One of the reasons it's been moved is down to climate. Here we go, Qatar again. I saw a mad stat that I think it might be the last 8 African nations or something have not taken place in the country that originally were awarded the tournament. It keeps getting, like, it will get awarded to someone and then there's an issue, be it conflict or weather, and and it changes venue. And I think that's what happened last time when it was in Egypt. Is this going to be an ongoing problem? I thought there was a discussion there. And also,
my only thing with that is it's quite far away.
Yeah, of course.
It's donkeys.
No one's suggesting how to plan next year's World Card or anything like that. But it's worth mentioning. And also, just on that of note, it's the Olympics this year.
It certainly is. Japan, 2020. I really wanted to go.
Again, Egypt are saying they want Salah to go.
Yep.
So, you could be missing a period. The Olympics is in August. We could be talking right now already next year, Mohamed Salah missing sort of 8 Premier League games for international duty, possibly.
There's talk at the moment. Is it Martinelli that Brazil want to take to the Olympics as well, and they need him for some qualifying? And there was
possibly.
Talks.
I think players of that age, it's right, isn't it? Like Arsenal would let a player like that go.
I don't know if they wanted to. I think they were going to hold talks with the Brazilian Football Association or something to try and figure it out. But yeah, that is going to come into play a little. What were the other choices?
The Deloitte Money League was released last year. Barcelona, the first club to push past a revenue of 800 million euros.
Not bad.
There was some interesting numbers in it. I think it's been quite widely reported that the gap between Liverpool and Manchester United is getting a lot closer. A lot of that be affected by, obviously, Liverpool's Champions League win last year. United were in the tournament as well, it's worth saying. So there's every chance this time next year that's going to look worse for United again. Tottenham, currently London's top club.
Yep.
Again, quite heavily influenced by the Champions League run, obviously, and income from the new stadium, etc.
Yep. Highest placed club in that table that doesn't play European football?
Oh, I'd have to get it out. But you
West Ham.
Is it really? Yeah. I was going to say
highest placed club.
West Ham and Everton
don't play European football.
West Ham and Everton are both in the top 20. And I think even Newcastle were, because of the turnover they get off gate receipts.
Yeah, I mean, big old stadium.
Thereabouts as well.
Yeah.
They certainly have
I'm pretty sure it was
in the top 20. You can see a real drop-off between... I think this might be 6 Premier League clubs in the top 15, the so-called Big Six. Might even be top 12, maybe, actually. So I thought that was an interesting discussion potentially. The one I would have voted for if it was my choice, truthfully, was a discussion on FA Cup replays. I've got quite strong feelings on it. I think the big clubs are trying to remove replays. Lower league clubs obviously want them for the potential of the extra income, etc., extra TV, and understand that.
That's what I voted for as well.
Somebody made a great shout yesterday about saying, I think it's 736 teams entered the FA Cup this year. 716 of them need a strong voice. You can't just go on what's best for the Premier League, etc. I thought it would hold a wider discussion about what would happen longer term, because I think there's every possibility, although the Premier League would want to avoid it, that the Premier League will eventually become an 18-team league. My personal opinion is, and it might be big club mentalities, that FA Cup replays now should go. One of my arguments against what the lower league clubs say is, take an example of, say, Colchester this year in the League Cup, beat Palace on penalties, beat Tottenham on penalties. All right, the reward was cruelly away, not great, but they didn't win that, and then suddenly they're in a quarter-final at Old Trafford. What penalties will do is give the lower league clubs a better shot of winning, and I think we often forget that when we say, oh, what about the money for the replay? What about the money of winning? What about the glory day? Ask Bradford City fans from their League Cup run in 2013 when they won a number of games on penalties, including against Arsenal in the quarterfinals, when as a League Two side, they got to the Carabao Cup final. I don't know what it was called then. So
Carling.
I thought that was... no, I don't think it was.
Rumbelows then.
No,
That'll do.
I don't know. It changes all the time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But I thought there was a debate to had there, rather than just what I think obvious people would have thought I would have definitely sided with the lower league side, and I would side with the lower league sides. But I think there's a case for not having it, and from a calendar perspective, I thought it would lead to a debate in terms of better ways of scheduling this winter break now as well.
Yeah.
Which I think could mean to like the Premier League having a month off and scheduling sort of FA Cup third and fourth round with the winter break in the middle.
Yep.
We had a tweet last week from Jack Shepherd, who said he would listen to the people's poll even if people voted for paint drying.
Yeah, watching paint dry.
And I said, fine, I'll put it in the poll next week. Let's see what happens. And sure enough, we should have known. It won.
What's wrong with the world, man? What is wrong with the world? But like I said, and it said to me before, when I've put polls out on Twitter about player A or player B, and more often than not, I already know what I'm doing anyway, people always pick the stupid option. And someone said to me once, FPL Twitter likes to watch the world burn. And it's pretty apparent that they do. However, it's not, I don't think it's as crazy as it sounds. And there were a few interesting suggestions on what the topic was actually going to be, based on the fact that the topic is watching paint dry. Did you have any favourites from the tweets that you put out?
Yeah, lots of people mentioning Mourinho.
Mourinho's getting a lot of mentions.
Lots mentioning VAR.
Yeah.
Michael Oliver for his refereeing. Michael Owen for his commentary.
Yeah, they did get a lot of shout outs. They did.
Someone mentioned the spray used for free kicks.
We've got here, watching Manchild ponder his wildcard team.
Yeah, should we just do Manchild's wildcard?
The reason Manchild hasn't played his wildcard or can't play his wildcard is because he's forgotten his password to log into the FPL website. So that would be fun enough watching that. I bet it's probably Manchild 123 or something.
Yeah, lots of responses saying Spurs. A few people have said, obviously, transfer window. A couple of people have said watching Newcastle at the moment. Time wasting was mentioned. VAR came up a lot. Don't worry, we're not doing VAR.
No, we are not.
There were two people who, well, there was one person who was very close to guessing the correct subjects of this podcast. And that was at FPL 343 is back, who mentioned a certain mural that was erected in the early 90s, the first season of the Premier League, 1992-93, which was erected at a football stadium by a team I think only scored around about 40 Premier League goals that season. Worth mentioning, it was a 42-game season as well. It was 22 teams when the Premier League started. So I think he was partly right in what he was trying to say. But bang on the money, our friend Matt Tams, kit designer extraordinaire, who simply said, George Graham.
Tell me about this mural, because I don't remember it.
So when Arsenal rebuilt the North Bank,
Yeah.
in well, it would have been the summer of 1992, they put up this giant mural behind the goal. Rather than it be looking like a building site,
Yeah.
they put this mural up.
Oh, okay.
And they actually got in quite a bit of trouble because there was like every person on this mural was white.
Oh, okay.
Like everyone.
Wow.
So I think they had to like paint some black people on and stuff. And Arsenal, as obviously as you probably know, is quite a diverse support as
Massive.
well.
Yeah.
So yeah, they got, but they physically built a mural on what was then the North Bank at Highbury that depicted how the stand would look with faces of
Just
of
lots of white people. There you go.
Yeah, which was quite a clever idea as well, right? Because the ball
Of
used
course.
to hit it and you wouldn't have a ball boy running like
No.
20 yards up into the stadium to try and get
catch
the football back.
Yep.
So I was thinking about what to do with this, and I was trying to think of my memories of watching paint dry, and my first was that Arsenal team. So for me as a kid growing up, they were the enemy, the anti-football. In my first full season of going 1991, they won the league, losing only one game, which ironically was their 24th game, by the way. Just saying, happens to be this coming game week. Game 24 for them would be at West Ham, wouldn't it?
For who? Arsenal?
For Liverpool.
Oh, for Liverpool. Sorry. I thought you were alluding that we were playing Arsenal. No, game week 24's second game would be, and it would be their 24th match of the season. Yes.
Yes. Arsenal lost 2-1 at Chelsea. It was the only game they lost that season in 1991. This is a couple of years before the Premier League. There was football before the Premier League, believe it or not.
How
18 goals they conceded.
How biased is your opinion?
Oh, incredibly.
Okay.
Incredibly. Because looking back on it, one of the things you have to credit Graham for his time at Arsenal was some of his signings. Unlike with Wenger, who inherited that famous back four, and David Seaman, other than obviously Tony Adams, who came through the youth ranks and became captain at a very young age for Arsenal, he bought like Lee Dixon from Stoke, Nigel Winterburn from Wimbledon. He bought Steve Bold, David Seaman, and he put it together. But he also brought players who had a little bit of flair. He built a team that had flair players like Paul Merson originally. He got in players who were outstanding for Arsenal, like David Rocky Rocastle. He bought Ian Wright, famously from Crystal Palace in the season after the 1991 title win. And then for whatever reason, when the Premier League officially launched in 92-93, they started buying some really, really strange players. I don't know, maybe it's not strange now because obviously the reason that Graham left Arsenal was for acceptance of a payment that I think was £400,000, which at the time was, in football terms, was monstrous, right? We'd be talking millions now, essentially, in terms of a bung. For Per Lyderson and famous John Jensen, scorer of one goal for Arsenal in a 3-1 defeat to QPR on New Year's Day 1993. I think people remember the famous midfield of like John Jensen, Ian Selly, Steve Morrow, and what a side they were. Not.
The thing is with George, with that, you're looking back at it, and the famous chant from back then was 1-0 to the Arsenal.
He won a lot of games 1-0.
And you could think that, that's boring, dull football. I tell you what, this current Arsenal side, the current Spurs side, the current West Ham side, I'd take it right now. If you gave me that defence right now, I'd take it all day long. And so as boring as it may have been back then watching paint dry, they still had something about them. They could go and nick a game and control a game. And there is a certain art to that that we've just transitioned into a much more attacking style of football throughout the league. But we've lost the art of defending a little bit. It's why look at
not
Liverpool.
wrong.
Look at Liverpool now. I mean, it's a running joke a little bit from the start of the season where everyone's big at the back and gone in. This is 7 clean sheets in a row now, and they keep ticking along. West Ham, I'd put a lot of money on that being a clean sheet. Wolves, you could see Wolves scoring, but 8 out of 9 clean sheets all of a sudden. But no one else seems to be able to. City conceded 2 against Palace again at the weekend. Everybody's leaky now, and you just want a team that can defend.
Well, Liverpool are the only ones capable of doing it at the moment.
I'm curious. I wonder why.
We've seen, and if you're wondering, Mourinho, this could have been about Mourinho, but you're correct. It is the Tottenham podcast. No, I mean, defensively, there's so many poor teams in Premier League, but the game's so much faster as well now. There's so many more things like the movement of the ball, etc. The speed of the game, I think, is number one reason.
It's changed massively.
Whereas in those days, obviously poorer pitches, etc. You probably had teams crossing the ball a lot more. Arsenal obviously had units at centre half who could defend properly, and midfielders who often didn't break beyond the halfway line too much.
Yep.
Different style and different game. And Arsenal, particularly once they'd bought Ian Wright in the early Premier League games, they really could hang on into a game and know that Wrighty would just need one chance and he could win them the game.
Yeah.
So many times he would do it. It was a fantastic goal scorer, Ian Wright. They became... It's kind of forgotten that in the last years of Graham in the Premier League, like Arsenal were bad for a while. I think they finished 12th in the first Premier League year. 93-94 wasn't much better. And they were certainly bottom half when he got sacked in the late winter of 1995. But obviously during this, they were still doing well in cups, right?
Yeah.
They beat Sheffield Wednesday 2-1. The FA Cup final in a replay. They also beaten by the same score in the League Cup final when Tony Adams famously dropped Steve Morrow and broke his arm. And then they won the Cup Winners' Cup in 1994 when they were massive underdogs in Copenhagen against the brilliant Parma team that young viewers will remember obviously from the Gazzetta days with Faustino Asprilla, Thomas Brolin, Gianfranco Zola.
Yeah.
They were a terrific side, Parma.
Yeah.
And then they got to that final the following year, which Graham was obviously part of the early years of that campaign, when they lost to Zaragoza in Paris with the famous Naeem goal in the last minute of extra time. Line. And then that summer, Bruce Riot took over and they bought Dennis Bergkamp. And it didn't change for Arsenal immediately. They did finish fifth that year, it's worth saying, and qualified for the following year's UEFA Cup. But it was only once Wenger come in that you saw this completely different brand of football. But what Graham historically had done through his successes at Millwall as well, prior to managing Arsenal, was successful management. And it was inevitable that other big clubs in trouble were going to look for him. And once Howard Wilkinson had come to the end of his days at Leeds United, he seemed a natural fit to go in there and remodel it and reshape it.
You dropped a stat on me about Leeds' goal scoring in the full season that I found very surprising. I'm not a student of the game as you are in terms of remembering a lot of these stats, and I was like, okay, can that be realistically true?
It is.
Tell me, or tell the listeners that exactly the same.
So, I think it would have been Graham's first full season, 96-97.
Yep.
He scored 28 goals.
Wow.
They finished 11th. 28 goals in 38 games. They conceded 38 as well.
So a goal difference of -10, but they got them to the middle of the table, 11th.
Imagine that, finishing 11th on 28 goals scored. The Middlesbrough team who went down enough, it was...
28 goals in a season.
16-17 scored 28 or 29, and we were all like, they're the most boring team. Middlesbrough only conceded about 50-odd goals, which is really low for a team getting relegated.
Yeah.
Look at that Leeds team. 28 scored, 38 conceded. And that's grim, right?
There's got to be a lot of 1-0s in there. A ton of 1-0 victories in that season.
An average of less than 2 goals per game in a match over a whole season.
Less than a goal a game. 28 and 38.
Less than a goal scored, but in terms of actually watching a football match,
oh, okay, I see what you mean.
Under 2 goals per game for a whole season.
Yeah.
That's mad. And what's interesting about that in Leeds...
He didn't last long at Leeds.
No, but he was quite safe in the job, I think. What's interesting is obviously what happened with Leeds once he left. It's worth saying that in his summer before he moved to Tottenham, he did buy Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. So there was obviously something on the table to try and get that. And then I think Hasselbank finished joint top goal scorer with 18 Premier League goals with Dion Dublin and Michael Owen in 97-98. Graham left Leeds for Tottenham in September 98. And there's a couple of reasons it happened. One was for money. Let's be honest about it. 2, he apparently wanted to come back to London, and 3, apparently he wanted to dig the knife back into Arsenal. Tottenham were a mess at the time, having just had the ill-fated spell of Christian Gross. I'm here with my train ticket. Spurs fans, remember, it's been worse. And when Graham got appointed, it was mutiny, right? Because there was kind of a little bit like, and it was a lot worse than this Mourinho camp split in terms of, okay, this guy is capable of winning trophies, but the football's boring and he's Arsenal. So throw that on top of imagine with Mourinho now. It was really split. But you know what in fairness, looking back on that 98-99 season, he did instantly make us better defensively over a number of months. And 4 months into the job, or 5 months, there was a trophy on the board, having beaten Leicester in the League Cup final. And that's what he was brought in to do, right? Stabilise the club. We finished, I think, 11th, 10th and 12th under Graham. But it had been seasons previous, which was, 97, 98, we absolutely could have got relegated. But he was saved rather from the boo boys in terms of the football quality by one man in 98, 99, which was David Ginola, who won the PFA Player of the Year in spite of Manchester United winning the treble that year. And the first time I ever saw myself on Match of the Day was a fixture against Watford. It was about Boxing Day 1999.
Yep.
Camera zooms in on me as Ginola's getting taken off 3-0 up at home to Watford. And my old man's next to me, and he's all over Match of the Day losing his shit.
Yeah.
Why is he losing his shit? Because he's taking the only footballer we've got
who's got any skill.
And very rarely Spurs were having a good day.
Yeah.
Imagine that now. There was another game at Villa 3 days later. Now we'd be like, yep, rest him up for Wednesday.
Yeah.
Back then it was like, nah, leave your player on the pitch. Again, football evolving over 20 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, once he kind of managed to usher Ginola out of the door come summer of 2000, it was bleak. This is a fun one for Spurs fans, because I was thinking, wow, I wonder if he bought any good players while he was with us. Here's some of the names he bought while he was at Spurs. Sergei Rebrov, who when people him and Shevchenko at Dynamo Kiev.
Yeah, Rebrov and Shevchenko were.
When people say to me, is there a player you've ever bought you've been so excited about, so underwhelmed? Rebrov would be right at the top of that list. Ben Thatcher.
Okay.
Tim Sherwood, Chris Perry, Oyvind Leonardson, Willem Korsten, Gary Doherty, Anthony Gardner, Stefan Freund, Neil Sullivan, Andy Booth as an emergency loan in January 2001 to cover us for striking problems. I feel like I've been here before. Yeah, those are some of the quality signings that George Graham bought during his period at Spurs, which was dull to say the least. And the irony is that I was at Charlton in a fourth round cup game in 2001, and we were losing 2-0 at the Valley, and the game had been rescheduled to a midweek night because of poor weather. 2-0 down, getting completely outplayed, and the whole of our ground is singing for Graham to get sacked. It's not just, it's everybody on the end, mate. This guy is getting sacked by Friday latest. Yep. He's done. He's finished. Brings Garrett Doherty on, puts him on up front. Ginger Pele, as Spurs fans remember, absolute cart horse for a footballer. And within 10 minutes, we're 3-2 up.
Yeah.
And we won 4-2, and it was a brilliant night. And then we went on and played yourselves in the quarterfinal and won 3-2. Rebrov scored twice, and it was probably the best Spurs performance of that season. And it was his last game in charge. Got sacked. He got sacked on a technicality of verbal warnings for things he'd been saying in the press, which were against club policy and stuff like that. It was a loophole. Basically, Ennick had come in. David Butler before Daniel Levy was in charge. Yep. They wanted their own man in charge and appointed Glenn Hoddle. And the irony was that having suffered the guy for 3.5 years, it was at a point where we had Arsenal in the cup semi-final and Graham was our best chance of beating them.
Yep.
And we just sacked him.
Yep.
And Arsenal beat us 2-1 in that semi-final, and I promise you, should have beat us about 6-1, mate. Absolutely battered us. And then the recovery started from there. But then there's a lot of people who are unhappy with what's happened since, because in the period since there's only been one trophy in spite of the regularly qualifying for Champions League, now a so-called Big Six club rather than mid-table mediocrity. And now I'm back in. I feel like I'm back in a similar phase, which is why it was worth talking
10th,
about.
12th, 9th, 10th.
I can't
8th,
see
10th.
me
I don't think
regularly
you'll
going
drop to
through
that
that
level.
period. No, neither can I.
No.
But we are in a period where we feel like we're watching dull football, and we'll talk about that a little bit more on Tottenham, no doubt. There are comparisons between the Mourinho team that he's inherited and that team that Graham inherited. Because you have to remember, as bad as Spurs were, there was talent there with Ginolas, Les Ferdinand, he who shall not be named at centre-half, a very developing Stephen Carr, who was excellent at right-back. And Mourinho has some decent players now, but he also has some players that he needs to get out of that door as well. But when people say, watching paint dry, the first thing I think of is George Graham football.
There we go. That was a James Linden production because I didn't spend time thinking about George Graham at all, to be honest with you. But it was interesting to have a rundown.
I just messaged Suj last night and said, right,
I
they
was
asked
asleep
for it.
by then, actually.
They're getting George Graham.
Yeah. I don't know if I was. I don't even know what time you messaged me. I went to the cinema to watch Will Smith yesterday. Bad Boys.
Yes. What you gonna do?
Good film. Good fun. So yeah, George Graham was not
That's
getting
mad,
any of my
I was
time.
watching the first one last night.
Really?
Yeah, it was on terrestrial.
96 or 97. That's like 21 years later.
It was 96, I think.
96. 23 years later, they're coming out with the third sequel. It's just, funny. So yeah, let's talk about what we've got coming up this week. We have the main podcast coming out on Monday, as per usual. That'll be later on this evening. Tottenham this week. James watched Tottenham get a draw away at Watford. At least he kept a clean sheet.
Stuck his fingers in his clean sheet. Woo! It's like Graham's taking over.
True. And I went to the West Ham Everton game. I've got quite a lot of interesting thoughts about this Liverpool double, this fixture that's in the double coming up in it'll be 11 days or whatever it is now, roughly. So that's going to be a good listen. We've got Sky Fantasy Football. It was a bit of a car crash weekend for a lot of players in Sky, with Vardy doing what Vardy does. Mane blanked. No real returners on the Saturday as well. I had Kevin De Bruyne. No. But now we're into double game week and overhaul time. Like literally it's here within the next 3 weeks. Another podcast on Thursday because there is midweek football this week. And then Friday we have
you don't know what we're doing, do you?
Clash of the Correspondents.
On Thursday, yeah.
Oh, you're going to release Clash of the Correspondents on Thursday?
Yeah, we're going to release Clash of the Correspondents.
I know we're recording on
Wednesday.
That's what I do know.
And Friday, main podcast again.
Oh, so we're going to do the main podcast on Friday.
Yeah, we'll have to record it Thursday because unfortunately now my little one started nursery, which means I need to work from home on Fridays, which skews the schedule a little bit. But it does mean the positive of Friday's Planet FPL, I think it'll be episode 30. We won't talk about Liverpool at all. I think everyone's sick of it a little bit. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it'll be interesting because it'll be the first half of the old double game week scores will be in.
See where we're at without Liverpool assets.
We know we're all TCing someone from there, possibly, maybe.
Oh, I don't know if we all aren't. There's obviously people out there who have used it. People have got different ideas. That's fine.
But so plenty of content coming out all week, especially with all of the midweek football this week as well. So do stay tuned. If you are into FPL and you love the show, please do like, subscribe, rate and review it on iTunes or wherever you can, and share it with all of your FPL playing friends and family. Other than that, thank you for all your support. Ciao for now.
Cue music, man, child.
And I suppose we should wish everyone a really happy Monday and have a good week because it's the start of the week.
The Fantasy Football Show.